Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fulcrum of Education. My name is Andrew. I'm here with my good friend Elijah, and we're talking everything about the future of education and how to make it awesome.
Yeah, kind of with that, Andrew, you're the founder of Heretic School. Would you mind give us an update and kind of in some developments as of late
Yeah, it has been quite a while since our last episode because I've been in the trenches revamping like everything about how we do Heretic School. The number one
and
thing we've
marketing as
added
hell?
and marketing my ass off, hell yeah. Among the most incredible thing I think we've built has been our new personalized mentor system. Everywhere you go, from projects, reading articles, watching videos, you will have an AI mentor of your choice, the wisest people in history. And we're adding more from Aristotle. We've got Nietzsche, we had Cicero, Marcus Aurelius, who will look over your shoulder, so to speak, as you do projects. And as you write, it will jump in and say, hey, you didn't word this as well as you could have, or this point wasn't logically consistent. As you read, it'll give you little quiz questions. Like, this is the future of education, this kind of on the edge personalization. We're not abstracting the intelligence of AI. We're bringing it to the very edge level of what you're doing.
Yeah, each of those figures, those historical academic figures, obviously, kind of each have their own approach to learning and the art of knowledge. So, in your implementations, do the AIs who are taking on these different personas, do they interact and engage in a different way with, say, me?
Yeah, they all have their own personality, so to speak. It's part of it is just tonality.
Yeah,
Like Nietzsche's a dick a little bit compared to like Aristotle.
yeah,
Like obviously I had to tone it back somewhat because it was like a little bit aggressive. I can't even lie. Though it was kind of cool to have like your own personal Nietzsche beat the crap out of you for like making inconsistent points. But that's
that's
not
cool.
really helpful educationally. But they ask the direction and phrasing of their questions is a little bit different. But on the whole, it is more personality and style and less like actually philosophy of knowledge, simply because that's how AI and prompting works these days. Though over time I want it to feel significantly different, especially like subject to subject. Like Aristotle should feel different teaching you math than Nietzsche teaching you math. Nietzsche teaching you math would be a little bit weird because that's not what he does. But, I mean, it still works, but I want it. I want to increase the separation and the difference. It really is, I think, one of the coolest implementations of AI in education I've seen so far, and this is its like embryonic state. I have like, crazy ideas for bringing it to like every aspect of every second of your education.
Yeah, a debate mode or like a senior thesis mode where you have to come
we
up with a
have
plan.
we have a submission mode for projects. You can either like write it or do a PowerPoint and upload stuff, or we have what's called Yap mode. Yap mode is one of the cooler features of Heretic School, and I don't think we highlighted enough. Basically, your job is to answer verbally, and then your AI mentor will go and say, "This was good, but like I don't think you expanded on this point enough," and make you and force you to like push beyond your knowledge, and it will like play devil's advocate and really push you to expand on your point. You can't half-ass it. It's not done until it says you're done,
Okay,
and that's been really interesting, really fun. More than that,
because
like
what a
when you're
lot of
reading an article, you can just turn on voice mode and be like, "I'm confused," explain it to me, and it'll break it down super simple. Or if you see something, you're like, "Well, I know this about this. How does it connect?" It'll draw the connections for you.
I see. Yeah, a lot of AI like this day and age. If I'm going to use ChatGPT and teach me how to do calculus, all it's going to do is hold my hand. So it's kind of cool that you're trying to break away from that in a way that a real teacher would do, because in a public school setting, the teacher teaches to the test, and the test reflects their standing with the school's administration, of course. But that's a good way to do it. I am a fan. So what's kind of like going on in the user feedback and usage patterns? I know I've been seeing your emails from time to time, but how's that? How's the market analysis going for you?
We've definitely switched up the segment we're targeting and how we're positioning ourselves to parents. I mean, part of this is like business strategy stuff,
Of
but
course.
how this reflects in product has been that number one, we've been moving to sort of a broader model. We do everything but the in-person aspect. One thing that was like really highly requested, we had like a limited collaboration feature. We built that into having a friend system and being able to do collaborative projects with a group, which is
Okay.
awesome because if
Yeah.
these are people you're not randomly assigned, but people you actually like, your friends working on things you care about, and being able to do it collaboratively, that's how real life works. You work on
Yeah.
things with people you're there voluntarily with, not people you're assigned to work with. And then you get to make friends from all over the country or near you who are interested in the same kind of things. And I think that homeschooling's socialization aspect has been sort of spontaneous and like through Facebook groups. And I don't think that's how it should be. I mean, I think that that's great. And I think it's out of school, but public schools socialization aspect is way too intertwined with the education. Those things are effectively the same thing. And then when people try and defend public school, they do it on the socialization angle, not the curriculum, which is really funny every time. because it's like, what is the purpose of school? It's not to make friends.
Eh, right.
It's to grow. If you want to make friends, go make friends. But on the other end, homeschooling, there is very little overlap between education and socialization. And to meet in the middle, the simple answer is to make it voluntary, to meet people with similar interests and work on things together if you want to. And it's really that simple. You can, make connections. I mean, we have kids who are interested in startups because I don't know, apparently that's my market.
Well, you
Our
are the
product does
market.
actually work uniquely well for people interested in entrepreneurship. And they like work on entrepreneurship projects together. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the
No,
kind of
that's
spontaneous collaboration we're looking for.
yeah, totally. Like little I used to do a program that was like a homeschool get together as like a co-op. So I absolutely get what you're saying from a homeschool standpoint because I've lived it, obviously. Trying to merge a little bit better anyway, the academic and the social. If you have one and not the other, vice versa, then you're still kind of screwed in one way or the other. So it is important to build collaboration platforms, like you're saying, that do both. So, kind of along those lines, technical improvements. It's been a little while since I've personally been on the Heretic School website, but technically speaking, the back end and all of that, what kind of changes have you made, and how are you scaling with AI? I'm curious.
Well, to not get into the weeds, AI is advancing at a really rapid rate, and I think it should reflect an increased educational experience just logically. It's intelligence that comes out of a pipe. We can apply it to make people smarter. It's really just that simple. So the number one thing has been making everything faster. Previously, the fast ones were dumb. Grok and Cerebras now offer near state of the art at 5 to 15 times faster than the OpenAI and Claude, and with total privacy and the ability to switch at any time. It's really great. And then the thing that's really exciting to me is voice models have gotten way better.
Yeah,
11
Grok
Labs, and then
voice
just
mode is Grok
it's
voice mode is fire,
it's really
especially the
good.
sexy one.
Wrong. That's the Grok with a K. I'm talking about Grok with a Q, but Grok with a K is also.
Okay.
I mean, I think we should talk about Elon and what Grok is doing because that is not it's not good for the education. But
No, it's fun
I
for
don't know. I
Doc,
don't know what
but
it's up to.
yeah,
But
yeah, we
anyway,
can hit that later on.
we can
That's
we
a
can
good
circle
topic though.
back to Elon building interesting stuff. Yeah, we've been getting a
Cool.
lot faster, and that just makes the whole experience snappier.
Yeah, I saw
More
an
than that,
article.
we've been getting smarter models lead to better products, just obviously. And yeah, like one of the biggest technical changes has been allowing collaboration as widely as we can.
I got you. I saw an article, I don't know, a couple months ago that was saying companies that are trying to use AI are too slow for the human psychology to actually engage. And so that's kind of a big thing that caused bounce and churn with a lot of AI startups is that everything just felt way too slow. And that's inherent to AI, but it's really cool that you're finding ways to make it faster. What servers? I'm technically oriented, I'm sorry, but like what hardware are you running this on? Surely it's not just a server in your mommy's basement.
No, Rock with a Q and Cerebras. Ooh, sorry, my outline closed. Grok with a Q and Cerebras. I really hate that I have to say with a Q, but they do specialized AI inference hardware that just runs it fast as hell, and it's cheap. It's actually cheaper, significantly so, than Anthropic.
Okay.
So
Anthropic's expensive. They've always been
yeah,
expensive, but it feels
Anthropic.
like they're extra expensive as of late compared to ChatGPT for
Even O3 is way cheaper than Anthropic's like Claude 4, which is it's all there's a lot of reasons behind it, but this isn't a technical podcast, so we'll move
shut up.
past that.
All right. So earlier you were kind of talking about AI mentors, AR mentorship. So I know kind of your fundamental approach and kind of your big idea is around Aristotle teaching Alexander the Great, if I'm not incorrect. Sorry. It's summer. My historical context is kind of sketchy. So kind of dive into that a little bit for me. How does Aristotle teaching Alexander the Great, how are you applying that concept into everything you're doing at Heretic School?
The fundamental purpose of Heretic School is to replicate that Philip of Macedon, Alexander's father, paid literally the resources of his kingdom. It required a king's amount of money to hire Aristotle, like the wisest man in the Greek world at that time, to mentor and personally teach his son Alexander and like 3 dozen of his friends. They weren't really, I mean, they were his friends, but they were other noble sons. And among those would later become Alexander, one of the greatest conquerors in history, 4 kings, all of his generals, except Parmenion, and effectively all of his talented administrators and bureaucrats. All of them grew up at the feet and were educated at the feet of Aristotle. Obviously, that's not scalable. The Industrial Revolution proved that. We needed a base level of education for everyone, but we're still using that education system. But now we have the technology to give every child an Aristotle level education. AI intelligence comes out of a pipe. It's not that expensive. You pay, a couple dollars in credits per hour of education or whatever. And with that, we give you Aristotle, who will, turn your child into their own Alexander. Hopefully less wars of conquest come out of Heretic School. But yeah, we don't aggression
We're
isn't really our
Heretic
thing.
School. We endorse global and world domination.
You know what? World domination through markets, okay? I want people educated on Heretic School to become, I want 100 Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerbergs. I don't want 100 wannabe conquerors. But the principle is very much the same, that exceptional people get exceptional educations that are exceptionally tailored to them. That's what
Yeah,
we're all about.
totally. So I know, kind of from messing around with Heretic School a little bit, you kind of build a plan in advance, so to speak. When you say, "This is what I want to do. This is my interests," So how are these mentors you mentioned earlier, being like Aristotle, Rand, Marcus Aurelius, etc., how are they engaging and integrating with the learning plan that a child might have for themselves?
Yeah, so upfront, we have a bit of an onboarding. We just ask what you're interested in, what your past experience and learning has been about. And with that, we get you an incredibly tailored educational plan that takes you from exactly where you are at that moment toward an expert in whatever field or subject. We don't give a shit about what the like AP defined level of what a five is. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't give a shit about that. Okay. I don't need an administrator telling me what this standard is here. More than that, if you get a five on an
Absolutely.
AP test, getting some wrong matters more than getting others wrong. So how that's the same score, that's fucking stupid. But we take you towards genuine mastery in what you're doing. With that, the mentor is your on the edge, over your shoulder every moment, helping you out, giving you guidance, making connections. So this thing you said last week in one of your project responses really is very much related to what you're reading right now. Draw that connection, even across subjects. If you learn something in math and it's related to something in philosophy, we'll draw that connection for you. That's the kind of Aristotle-esque genius mentor education that every kid is entitled to.
Very cool. So I don't know, like off the top of your head, do you have an example of how Aristotle might jump in and make those connections? What kind of is that flow? At what point does Aristotle say, "I see a connection here. Dive into this"? That's kind of that trigger.
It's really the trigger is as you read, it knows at what point you're reading. Really, it knows what line you're on, and it's a little timer every 5 or 10 seconds. It checks. All right, should I draw a connection here? Should I give them a quiz? It's totally agentic, much in the way that OpenAI's operator is agentic or Claude Code is agentic. It makes that choice. We give it pretty strict guidelines on what the right behavior is, but the context for every kid is going to be totally unique, and the article is going to be different because we make articles specific to what your kid how they learn. Like no two kids should read the exact same article. Like, that's just from a first principles perspective, not personalized. You take in information in a different way. You have marginally different interests. You have different reasons for being there. You should get articles and videos that are all about that. So, that context, it takes it in and it's like, all right, I've seen 1,000 of these situations before. What should I do? And we give them on the spot personalization to be excellent at what they do.
Totally. Very nice. So another approach, kind of in my conversations with you about Heretic.School, you're adamant that Heretic.School is not a game and never will be a game. So I kind of like to dive in a little bit into gamification in education, kind of across the board, generally speaking. So firstly, like how gamification falls short. Do you want to dive right into that?
Yeah, I know we've talked about this quite a bit, so we can. It's really just one big answer, and the answer is you might enjoy playing games, but enjoy playing games for the meaning that game gives you. You can't mix that with the learning. The meaning is either from the learning or from the game. You might find meaning in playing Minecraft, but most of the time it's just like a way to spend time that gives you a dopamine hit. Same with Call of Duty or Hearts of Iron or whatever you're playing. If you have goals in your life, if you have dreams, if you have ambitions, if you have every kid has, we ask kids at like 6 years old, what's your dream job? They have an answer for you. We don't give a shit about surface level, like, oh, I completed the math problem if you forget it immediately because you were only doing it for the dopamine hit of leveling up. That's not what we're about. We want you to do the math problem because it's in service and it's in service of your goal. And at a more immediate level, it's given to you in the way that you absorb it best. Like he who has a why can bear any how. If the meaning behind it is strong enough, we want kids to propel themselves forward of their own internal motivation.
Right.
Duolingo, how many people have like what I love when someone's like, "Oh, I have a 2,000-day streak," and they can't speak the language. Like I find that endlessly funny because it just shows how good they are at optimizing attention. We shouldn't take 2,000 days of doing something over and over again to be not that far from where you started. You should be really fucking good at that language after 2,000 days. If you learn entrepreneurship
Yo.
or computer science for 2,000 days on Heretic School, you will be really fucking good at computer science.
Right, totally. So that's kind of where I'm going to jump into the next point a little bit is what makes Heretic.School engaging?
We care about what the student cares about. That's what we wake up and go to sleep thinking about. How do we make learning this in service of their goal, in service of what they care about, how they care about learning it? How do we make that awesome for them? BT recently launched this study mode because they got a lot of flack, deservedly, for basically everyone was just one-shotting their homework from like middle school all the way through college. I saw
Right.
something on Twitter the other day where someone was at their college graduation and had brought their laptop and was holding it open, and it was the ChatGPT thread of them writing their final paper for college. Like, that's the level of things they're at. It's
No.
incredible.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, we need study mode. Number one, it requires a user to toggle study mode. So they have to choose
You
to
have to
learn it.
choose not to cheat,
Yes,
essentially.
they have to choose not to cheat, which they've already chosen by going to ChatGPT,
Right.
right? Followed by, it doesn't prompt them of its own volition. It's responsive. It's still a
Mm-hmm.
chatbot. Okay, and
Yeah.
chatbots are good for some things, but what we want is mentors and teachers that push us towards the learning, that fill in our gaps instead of just, sorry, I can't give you the actual answer to that, but here's the formula, plug it in yourself. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you just gave them the formula.
You gave him 90% of the answer.
Exactly. You did
Yeah.
everything but actually do the work for them instead of
Right.
saying, well, here's the approach you should take.
Mm-hmm.
Or more than that, it doesn't have content associated with it. So it's literally just a chatbot. It's not like they're reading an article about, whatever they wrote their final paper on and like it's a sidebar chatbot that's like helping them out, even if it's not proactive, it's just reactive. No, it's reactive and it's just a chatbot. So they're gonna get sick and tired of it and go right back to cheating like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, but if you're already so far down that road anyway, you may as well get exactly what you want out of it when you want it instead of beating around the bush the whole time. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that it's a good step. It shows that they care a little bit. I know that Sam Altman as a person thinks about this. You read his
Yeah.
blog and you can tell he's concerned about the impact on education, how AI should be used properly for it. But this isn't it. And in the way that, I've talked to enough of investors who are like, what if, OpenAI launches this? Like, what if they pivot to this? What if Google launches it? And it's like, they're too wedded to chatbots. Chatbots are what they do. That's how they use AI. They aren't AI native platforms.
Yeah.
Anthropic's Claude Code is the closest to an AI app they've launched. And that's still
Mm-hmm.
basically just a chatbot. It's just a chatbot with tool use.
Right. What's kind of like I know, like you were just saying, they're all in bed with the chatbot idea, but what if OpenAI goes beyond study mode? What if just they launch GPT Study and it's just its own app, and this is where you can get assignments from it, you upload documents and all of that shit. What's Heretic.School's kind of defense mechanism? Because
Heritage.School's
OpenAI.
number one defense message is personalization. But more than that, I find it incredibly unlikely that that will ever happen.
Okay.
Because if you think of it, chatbots are a one of one sort of paradigm. Like a chatbot
Right.
is a chatbot. AI just made them smarter instead of just like canned answers.
Yeah.
They made them generalized. And it's great. Chatbots are awesome for what chatbots do. Application layer is an end of infinity problem to a fundamental level. You can make any number of apps this way. And, if someone tries to copy and paste Heretic.School and say, we're going to make fully personalized education for every homeschooler, it's going to be so awesome that kids leave public school to be part of it. Oh, more people working on solving this problem. That's, I think, at a pretty fundamental, like, it's existential for humanity that we give kids education that actually prepares them for the world and doesn't make them want to kill themselves.
Right. We
I'm,
need to
oh
always grow
no.
up.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like if I have to beat OpenAI and Google, if I have to step up my game that much, oh no, like what a tragedy. I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. And even if it did, not a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. I was like trying to do a mental SWOT analysis. It's like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. It's like OpenAI is a threat in my mind. But you're right. If they're trying to work towards your common goal, then it doesn't really matter. A scenario I could see playing out, kind of in the late 80s and 90s, Microsoft was going around to a bunch of public schools and doing computer donations. So all these kids like grew up on Microsoft computers and products. Like, what if OpenAI decides to go to public schools and start
It's
embedding
not
their
going to
AI?
work because it's public
It's not going to
schools.
work.
Public schools
Okay.
can't do this. They're too rigid. They're too in bed with labor unions. They're too,
Mm-hmm.
or not labor unions,
It's like,
teachers
what?
unions.
Are they running sweatshops in there? Like, what's going on these days?
No, teachers unions. Teachers unions don't want to see innovation because I'm
Of
sorry, but
course.
AI makes them largely irrelevant,
Obsolete. Yep.
and they can't allow that because teachers unions
Well,
are
there
against
are way too
progress in
many
education.
teachers. Like the number
Absolutely.
of teachers is insane. Of course, you could always have more teachers for the number of kids, but
No, it's actually that there are way too many teachers as a
right.
percentage of the economy and not enough for the number of
That's
students.
what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's flipped. It's backwards.
imagine if we had like 1 to 1. Oh wait, this is what AI lets us do. Whoa, that's crazy. It's almost as if like
Yep.
an awesome company called Heretic.School built that.
Wow.
Just go try it immediately.
Yeah, you should.
It can't happen because public schools aren't nimble enough for that. Regulation won't allow it. It's too politically contentious. The homeschooling market, it's a free market, nearly, not totally. There are still some regulations that actually are pretty awful in some states, but
Yeah,
at
I
a,
was I
at
was
a,
gonna
at
say,
a
how does Heretic School contend with, I don't know, a state? I used to live in Colorado. Colorado was pretty strict on their homeschool, but they're not even like the worst ones, like California or
California's much worse.
Massachusetts, like some states that are really terrible for homeschoolers. How would they view Heretic School?
We have an optional thing where if you want to put in what state you're in, we will make our curriculum up to the, what the guidelines are. It
That's
almost
good.
always
Yep.
happens anyway because giving them a good education almost always surpasses the state requirements. But like for whatever subject it is, whatever the state, but we say it's optional because to be quite honest with you, why would you want to? You will get a better education. Any homeschooler on Heretic.School will outperform their public school equivalent child any day of the week. You're, you can pass ACTs with flying colors. Like we don't need these regulations to ensure that kids get good education because parents will pay for an education that is better. That is our moat. Our moat is that we give kids the best, most personalized education. But if you want to click the box, go for it. Say, all right, I now conform to this state's regulations. The California ones, I mean, it maybe makes it 10% less personalized, which I think is a crime. But
Yeah,
if you don't want to fulfill it through your own, like personal touches to the curriculum at home, we'll take care of it for you.
I got you. Do you have like a plan for accreditation too?
Absolutely
I know.
never. We will
Okay,
never be accredited. We will never be accredited. We would have to give up everything that makes us unique and awesome to be
exactly.
one size
Yeah.
fits all public school knockoff piece of shit. Okay?
Okay.
Heretic School will never be accredited because we will never be boring. We will never be one size fits all. We will always, always, always be personalized. That's what we do.
Very nice. Okay, kind of with that, I feel like it's a good closing to our section. I wanted to dive into up and coming. They've been on the news lately. Alpha
Yeah,
School.
their
So
press is great.
Austin's AI education experiment. So
Alpha School. Well, our friend Alex, who works on Barry, who was
mhm.
also a 1517 associated, which is how
Yeah,
we
he's at
met.
Alpha School now.
Yeah, and she's been doing podcast rounds about it also. Yeah, it's been actually really great. I really enjoyed the podcast she was on. I know a lot about Alpha School. I think they're doing great stuff. I just don't. I think it's about 10 times better than 10 or 20 times better than public school, and about like 1/20th as good as Heretic School. Obviously, I mean, they've got a ton of traction. They're doing great work, and I think we're working towards the same problem. But I think that number one, it's a little bit still too rigid, not quite as personalized as it should be. It's really augmented by AI instead of AI native, AI foundational, which is great. It's a great step. It's what public school could never do. But the end state is total personalization. Followed, I think, and one of my hotter takes is that we do not, there's not a necessary in-person component of education. I think it's a helpful component and that it should be some amount, maybe a couple days a week or, spontaneous organization among parents. But I don't think that you need to be in person to learn. People like try and point at COVID as the example. And it's like, well, it's just because the model was a piece of shit. And when you didn't
Yeah.
have a political commissar looking over every kid's shoulder to make sure that they were doing their busy work, of course they didn't do their fucking busy work. Well, if you just get rid of the
Right.
busy work part that actually make them want to do the work because they care about it, you don't need someone to threaten to punish them if they don't. It's really, really that simple.
I got you. Yeah, that was a good point about Alpha School just kind of supplementing the traditional structure. I would like to see them move toward AI centric, obviously, but then they're your direct competitors, so I don't know. I have to be careful what I wish for for your sake. Yeah, but it's kind of like a proving ground in a way. It's proving that AI can deliver core academics and they can graduate a class. Oh, people are willing to take a pretty big risk with AI academics, and they succeeded. They were able to turned that around. So that's really cool. And their expansions too. They're in what 12 cities now. But then there was Pennsylvania, who was like, get the hell out. So that kind of gets back to the homeschool, the issues homeschoolers have too. I used to live in
Yeah,
Pennsylvania as well,
Pennsylvania is among the more strict
and
states on that.
homeschooling there was a disaster. We had to keep records of everything, and then my mother had to turn them in, like everything. It was bad, and they could do stuff to you, like if they. It was kind of like a like socialist state. Like if you didn't meet their record requirements, then they could make you go to public school. It was a disaster.
The teachers union is super super powerful in Pennsylvania. They have like
That's who's reviewing your stuff.
exactly. Oh my God, it's almost yeah. It's almost as if teachers unions don't like homeschoolers because it's
Yeah,
competition.
who would have
I love
thought?
how teachers unions almost exclusively vote for Democrats. Democrats are like, we hate monopolies, and then it's like, well, except
Well,
labor
you are one,
monopolies. In which
right?
case,
Yeah,
monopolies on labor, those are great,
yeah,
incredible.
so true. Yeah, now let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about homeschooling plus AI because alpha school isn't homeschooling. Maybe just call it alpha schooling. It's not public schooling, not private schooling, not homeschooling. It's just alpha schooling.
It
But
feels a
what is
little bit like
homes?
Montessori to me, like from what I
Okay,
read
yeah,
from them. It feels
that's
like
true.
Montessori plus AI. Like that's sort of the vibe I get, which is great because Montessori is great, but
Hmm.
it's not full AI native.
For sure. So, what is homeschooling supplemented with AI or like super intertwined? Because you can have, like in my case, I do an online private school, but I pull AI out every now and then to like explain this to me or teach this to me. So that's like supplemental AI. But then I think intertwined AI is kind of its own thing. But what is homeschooling with an AI layer? What does that do better? If you wanted to kind of elaborate.
It looks like Heretic School, where everything is personalized and you get this consistent, on the edge, second by second assistance, personalization, and guidance from your AI mentor. That is what education should be because we can't give everyone, a mediocre teacher, let alone an Aristotle, except
Or their
AI can
mom.
now clone an Aristotle for every child and give them one that helps them be awesome at what they want to do. And, if you don't want to be a philosopher, then we can give you, the greatest in any of your fields. I mean, we can give you Robert Goddard if you're really into physics. We could give
That
you
would be cool.
Robert Goddard. Maybe we should
Hmm.
add him to the list. I want to add Thomas Jefferson also, but
Ooh, you could do like a
I had
political science track. Yeah,
yeah, that was well, we have Ayn Rand
that's
for
true.
political science, but Ayn Rand is also a dick. I had to make Ayn Rand less assholey because in real life she was an asshole. Very interesting thinker and had some ideas I very strongly agree with, but man, she was an asshole. Yeah, I don't. I think AI augmentation is better than not, but I do think augmentation very quickly leads into like I don't care about the work because it's the fundamental foundation of it is this one size fits all. So let me just have AI do it for me because AI is intelligence that comes out of a pipe. So instead of that, you want the AI to push you further in doing stuff you want to do for its own sake.
I got you. Yeah, I like your analogy. Intelligence of a pipe. It's kind of like tap water. It's like AI on tap or intelligence on tap. In that
It's
way.
really what it is. I mean, that's what servers in the cloud were. It was just like
Hmm.
compute on tap. You didn't have to like build your own servers. AWS was just server capacity that came out of a pipe, so to speak.
Hmm.
AI is the same thing. You just put in your credits, let Anthropic murder
Give
your
it your
credit
credit
card.
card.
Yeah, you like, well, tap to pay, and that's it, really. Like,
Hmm.
it's that simple.
Yeah, that simple. Except for the getting money part. But we don't have to dive. We don't have to dive down that rabbit hole. Let's talk about school choice. What's going on? What kind of shifts are we seeing? I know. I know. In February, last episode, we talked a little bit about the direction everything seems to be going. But current like statistics today, we've got 33 states. They've got school choice programs. 12 states with universal eligibility for any school program, and then 114 bills in 30 states this year to help free up the academic and education realm a little bit. But Andrew, did you want to dive into any of those details?
Yeah, friend of the educational accelerationism movement, Corey DeAngelis. He's like I see him daily on Twitter, just wrecking teachers unions. I love to see it. And he's been he's been lobbying really hard for school choice. I mean, at a fundamental level, if the government is going to take tax dollars to fund education, they should fund homeschoolers' expenses too. I would prefer that they just didn't at all, and we just had a free market and paid for it and competed for it, like every other good in service. But if government's going to involve itself here, it should at least be fair in that it assists homeschoolers with their costs. Because if we're going to,
Right.
pay $20,000 like per student per year in schooling costs, in Texas, $2,000 a year for homeschoolers seems not unreasonable.
For sure. Yeah. We have, obviously, my family does homeschool pretty extensively, and they have done homeschool extensively. And my mother has been like the teacher for a long time. And so we have amassed a ton of material. And once you buy it once, you can use it for lots of grades, of course. But when we lived in Texas, we lived within the confines of Frisco ISD. And so we My parents were paying taxes to FISD, and they were not cheap. FISD is a massive school district, and they build high schools like government buildings, marble and granite. So there's a ton of money going into that. And I think recently they're changing that, giving homeschool. I know Arkansas passed a bill to do that, but do you think that'll ever happen in like Colorado or California or Pennsylvania? What kind of political shift do you think is necessary? What change will make that happen?
I think that it starts with homeschooling getting so easy for parents because it takes a huge toll now, and AI really helps with this by being the foundation of it. And number two, it being so fucking good that parents won't suffer having their kids get the worst outcomes in public school, that they will leave to homeschool, and it just the politics of it will collapse around just the market inevitability of it. It's homeschooling can creatively destroy, to quote the great economist Schumpeter, the public school government complex. I think that that is the inevitable outcome. It will be
What do you
so cheap and so amazing to homeschool with AI that there will be no real competition to it except other people doing it in different ways with different approaches. And we'll just battle it out in the market. And I think Herrick School will win because I think we're the best of it.
what do you think governmentally? What do you think needs to change for that to happen?
For that to happen, I mean, I'd love if California had less restrictive reporting requirements. Same with Pennsylvania. I mean, if parents don't want to subject themselves to the rules of the government and how they must educate their children and can take some responsibility for the education of their own children, I think they should be allowed to. I think that people should be allowed to opt out of stupid ass state educational requirements.
For sure.
But even without that, I think that the political pressure to do that will come about by just AI education being so much better.
Mm-hmm. So the grass is in fact greener over here. Your grass died a couple decades ago. Yeah,
Yeah, and
for sure.
but the teachers unions will insist it is the greenest in the world, and that
Of course they
if you
will.
give them more money, it will get greener.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a really great segue. Great job, Andrew, into teacher unions and system issues. So I know you've been doing, and I have too, some reading. John Taylor Gatto, kind of his opinions and beliefs, and they are pretty damning for teachers unions. Do you want to speak on that a little bit more?
My roommate is running a vacuum right now, which is really unfortunate timing, but I'm going to talk over it and hope that the noise cancellation is good enough. John Taylor Gatto is he was New York State's like public school teacher of the year for like 10 plus years, and was so disillusioned by the system that he basically quit and started writing about how horrible it is. He wrote a number of great books. Zach Slayback from 1517 actually wrote the foreword to one of the books, which I
Wow.
didn't even realize until after I had met Zach and was rereading this book from John Taylor Gatto. And I was like, wait, Zach Slayback? I wonder if it's the same guy. And it was. Like, this dude is, I love Zach. Zach's great. I look like mini Zach.
You do. I thought you were like his son for a little while, actually.
I did get that quite a bit
Yeah.
last time. And he has just a huge, like, number of just unbelievably quotable statements about public school. One of my favorites is he just goes, the institution itself is psychopathic. It has no conscience. Because at a fundamental level, it doesn't. It's a set of regulations. It does not care. The piece of paper that these government administrators wrote these requirements on does not have any care for the children that it affects. It doesn't. Because why would it?
Exactly.
Doesn't have the capacity to do so.
Well, can't. There's not enough people to care.
No, and if you had one-to-one teacher per kid, number one, imagine how bad the median teacher would be. Second, just imagine there are 60 plus million K through 12 students in America, which means we would need 60 million teachers to do it one-to-one, which would be like half of the US labor force would be
Right.
just teachers.
Yeah.
I don't think there are that many people who, number one, want to be teachers, and number two, are qualified or temperamentally capable of being teachers. Number three, it would
Exactly.
ruin the rest of our economy.
I know.
Except I can spin up 60 million Aristotles made with AI for not that much money,
Hmm.
less than probably
Less than
the budget of a single state, way less than the salary of a teacher. Probably I could serve every kid in America for less than the educational budget of a single state. And I could serve them 100 times better.
Hmm.
Just shows you how unbelievably corrupt and inefficient our education system is. Not to mention its harm.
Right.
I mean, the suicide rate increases 83 or drops 83% in off months when kids aren't in public school.
Well, it's just
It's
sad.
actually incredible.
It's a tragedy. Yeah.
If you look at the suicide rate among teens on winter break, it literally goes week before winter break, flattens out, jumps right back up. And people are like, people try and put it down to seasonality, but among adults, it is not the same pattern.
Seasonality. Okay.
It's like, okay, yes, you're more sad in winter than in summer, obviously, if you normalize it against adults, it's not the same pattern. Kids are killing themselves because they have no meaning in their lives and they hate everything about this Lord of the Flies social structure, and they spend their whole life doing busy work with no meaning.
Hmm.
I mean, it's tragic, not to mention any number of other societal, problems of teens. Should get Alex on here to talk about it.
Yeah.
Mental health. That's
Hmm.
that's her
Right is Alex.
application. Should
Yeah.
get her to talk about it. But at a fundamental level, this is how this happens. We can fix it. We
Hmm.
just have to stop subsidizing this broken, chronic, sociopathic system.
Totally. Okay, kind of with that, I think we've hit everything for today. We had some last couple cool discussion
We
points.
can do a lightning round.
Lightning round, ready, set, go. Personalized AI education is now feasible, like Andrew's kind of just been talking about this entire time. We are no longer on ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. The thing is smart, hallucinations are less and less of an issue, and people like Andrew are out there building great tools that can take advantage of that. Gamification sucks. Don't do games and learning unless it's for the intentionality of learning, not for the game. And that's a really gray area. It's kind of hard to figure that out. Andrew, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think gamification, like, I think that you're competing between what you want to draw attention to. Do you want the game to be really alluring, or do you want the education to be really alluring? And whichever one of those you want it to be, why don't you just make a really good game or make a really good education? Like, if you
Exactly.
just want to be a video game designer, like, go design video games that are like really great. Like, people like video games, obviously. Why wouldn't you just go do that? If you're trying to like combine the two, it's like, well, you're going to end up with like a mediocre education because the bandwidth of education in a video game is not that high, or you're not going to end up with that fun of a game because you have to stop to do education. So
Exactly.
yeah, I guess the closest is like the ones that do education by accident, which is like,
Hmm.
strategy games teaching history, but like that's accidental, not like purposeful.
Yeah,
That's just the setting.
you don't buy Civilization 6 to learn history.
No, you're not like, guys, I play Hearts of Iron 4 studying for like AP World History. Like, obviously not. No. You
No,
buy it
definitely.
because you like playing map games. Like, okay,
Hmm.
if you like map games, play map games, but like, don't pretend that it's for education.
Exactly. Kind of along that pathway, ChatGPT study mode, it's a step in the right direction for big tech, but it's also just kind of a half-assed, stop trying to report on kids using us to cheat. School choice, that whole realm, homeschooler benefits, that's all kind of, the ball is starting to roll. We're starting to get a little bit better in that realm.
I think we're getting some momentum, yeah.
Like, just as we were just saying, John Taylor Gatto is still right. Teacher unions are still evil, and getting rid of them is going to be pretty hard. And then a couple last things. MIT, I don't know, a week or so ago, came out with Ask Tim. So for a long time, obviously, the MIT has had their courses open and accessible online. But then they just like unified that with Ask Tim, which is just MIT backwards, which I just realized today. Anyway, so kind of like their phrase is Ask Tim can make personalized. Notice that you use personalized recommendations based on your preferred level, your preferred format, and your interests. So that's cool and all, but I think that they run into the same issue with ChatGPT Learn. Of course, they're getting to use MIT's existing course content, which is amazing. It's like Khan Academy on steroids. Khan Academy needs to do an AI. Like if they were able to take their existing database and feed that through an LLM, that's
They're
something they could
they'll
do.
they'll try, but they have a good content library, but they don't have the rest of it.
Yeah,
I think that you got to be full stack, and I don't think that they commit to that.
for
More
sure.
than that, I think that their AI will end up with the same problem of people just asking it to cheat,
That's
because
true.
Khan Academy is like resources, but it's not
Hmm.
projects.
Well, you can use ChatGPT to cheat on your Khan Academy. So,
Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of a race to the bottom in that regard. Yeah. Well, very cool. Do you have any, wrapping up final comments?
No, I think we hit a really great range of topics here. I think we went from, like politics and policy all the way to technical implementation of how to make education super personalized. I don't know. I think the future is bright, but we gotta build it.
For
And
sure.
if you wanna go taste the future, so to speak, you can go look at heretic.school. Um, we're making great stuff there. And if you have any questions about it, you can email me personally, Andrew at heretic.school. I will get back to you within an hour, I promise.
Bro's on top of it.
All about that customer service. Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, Andrew and from Elijah, we're going to sign off. We will see you not in 5 months. We will be quicker about it this time.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all next time.